look who's here, Angel. It's our favorite audience members, and this is the REI Rocks Review. Angel is reporting from the best ever conference because, why go to the second best one, right? But how's it going, Angel?
It's going pretty good. I still sort of have a voice. It's probably going to be gone by the end of the day. But we've been having a really great time here.
Excellent. And Joe Fairless, the one who puts Best Ever Conference on each year, he is one of our sponsors from the fall 2022 summit, and so it's a great place to be. You said that there's usually over 1,000 attendees there, right? So why don't you say a thing or two? Yeah, there you go.
I think in the Hoover app, I think it's showing like 1,075, maybe 1,065. And not everybody gets on the Hoover app.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, and they call it the Best Ever Conference. They don't say which industry it's in. Maybe the audience knows, but why don't you fill everybody in, Angel?
All right, so a lot of the people here are multifamily, but there's also RV park investors, self-storage. There's laundry. They had a breakout room on laundry facilities, like how to make money with the laundromat. There was a oil and gas company here. There's several portals here and some other syndicators. So there's just a lot going on here.
Yep, for sure. And so today, I guess I should fill you in on what's going on. This is the REI Rocks Review. And what we always do is we go through a panel or a masterclass or interview from our live summits. And we do it at 1.5 times speed. And there's a few reasons for that. One is partially because I'm a little bit impatient, I suppose, because I always watch stuff at 2 times speed. But the bigger one is if you're going to learn how to learn from pre-recorded content, the most valuable thing you can do is get into a habit of consuming it faster. And that's why we watch it at 1.5 times speed. We do have a subscription where people can access all of the content. And, we mentioned sponsors a couple times, so I should probably mention that this space could be yours if you're interested. We have our summit coming up in just 2 weeks now, from March 23rd to 25th. And, we are up for sponsors. If anybody is out there in internet land and wants some more eyeballs of commercial real estate, buyers, sellers, syndicators, and all that kind of fun stuff. But speaking of sponsors, we're going to be reviewing JT Lynch's presentation today, and he's also a sponsor. He's in the insurance industry. What else do you want to say about that before we get started, Angel?
I don't really know that there is. He's a pretty good guy, and I would just say when you're getting ready to underwrite, make sure you get your insurance indications before you do so you get some actual numbers.
Right. Yeah, because your underwriting is going to fall apart if you just depend on what the previous owner was going off of. These numbers change all the time. I guess I'll be a little bit controversial and say that insurance isn't the sexiest thing out there until you're actually involved in these deals, because all that stuff goes to your bottom line, and knowing the difference, I think it's a big deal. So let's go ahead and start sharing this presentation here, because Angel really wants to go and see everybody at the Best Ever Conference and get back to it. So let's get started.
Hey guys, thank you all for being here. We're talking about a lot of different things today, like the operations side and the system side. Well,
Okay, and none of that's coming through on my audio. Is it coming through on yours?
It is. Yep. I can hear it.
Okay, I'll figure out why, and I'll just keep playing.
Okay. The other really important things that you need to always have in the back of your mind is the insurance side. And so JT is here, and we're going to talk some about insurance, some of the potential reasons why insurance is going up, which for me, it killed a deal. And just insurance companies are even leaving. They're leaving this particular space too. And so we're going to kind of talk about all of those, and then anything else that we think of that might be relevant, we'll talk about that too.
Yeah,
so JT, thank you for being
here. The good thing is anytime that I'm with you, who knows where the conversation is going to go. So there'll be plenty of questions and scenarios to go through, I'm sure. So we will not be without content, that's for sure.
But I was talking to somebody, I'm going to get off track already. I was talking to somebody the other day because I always feel like when military men and women face adversity, they just get through it.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Travis Hill, and Travis was like, well, we train and train and train, and we train for good situations, bad situations, horrible outcomes, good outcomes. It's like, because when it happens, you fall back on your training.
Right.
So they try to train for all possible situations. And I was just like,
when you're in a life or death, you can't just say, well, I give up, no, that's not an option. So that, yeah, they rewire their brain that isn't an option. And then that translates to all these other parts of their lives too. So yeah,
And so like a lot of times I don't think that I can persevere through everything. I do not. I think if in my mind, I believe there's no other option, I will get it done.
Right.
But it's not the same as like training for it. So I'm constantly thinking of scenarios. Like, what about if it was like this? Well, what about if it was like this? That way I've got some level of, I guess, training, but it's not really training.
Yeah. And that it's good to kind of think ahead, but some things like what could happen at my apartment complex to cause me to have a claim, you could drive yourself crazy thinking of all the scenarios. I mean, it's just insane. So maybe that wouldn't be the best thing, but yeah, certainly trying to think of
what I do. If I'm not worried, I create something to worry about.
Yeah. Staying awake at night. Like, well, what if a guardrail falls here?
Yeah. So just to kind of let the audience know, JT is the guy you call when you're looking at a property.
Yep.
We actually did get a call for the one that the insurance killed the deal. We got a call. We were at Jason's mom's house in Waco, and the broker was like, "Hey, y'all actually called the insurance agent, right?" I'm like, yeah. And I thought it was the weirdest question.
I haven't heard the story. Okay.
Yeah, no. So you haven't heard it. Because I thought everybody called and got some kind of an insurance quote, because you just never know.
Yeah.
And like Jason had underwritten for one amount, and then we talked to you, and it was double that amount. And that was what killed the deal. And so when the broker called and said, "Hey, y'all actually spoke with an insurance agent, right?" We were like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you remember the numbers?" And I was like, I always laugh because I'm like, "You really don't want to talk to me about numbers."
Yeah.
But I was
you
like,
don't want to know. Yeah.
Like, I think that it went from like, because Jason underwrote like 325 or 425 a door, and it was over 700.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Wow, yeah, I think we may need to talk to the sellers."
Yeah.
But it just kind of blew me away, because I thought, well, the prudent thing to do is to get in touch with you or another insurance provider and get some level of a quote for the property.
Sure. Yeah. And I think people, they want to do their homework, but maybe they don't know how or don't know what's appropriate, and I've heard this before, that someone will contact a broker and go, "Hey, I need help on this property." And the first thing they'll ask is it under contract? And when you say no, then they'll say, "Well, call me when it's under contract. I don't want to waste my time." And my point is, well, how are you going to get it under contract? How are you going to get it to that point if you don't even know if it's $400 a door or $800, right? And talk about wasting time. If you get it to underwrite it to $400 a door, get it under contract, then contact me, and then we're going through, could be 3 months worth of things, and then I get you a final quote and it's $800 a door and it kills the deal. Talk about wasting time. Or I could just spend 30 minutes looking at it with you and help you out in your underwriting right off the bat.
Yeah, and you risk losing your earnest money deposit as well when that's the case. So it's a very major thing.
That's my way of thinking of it. But yeah, there's probably a lot of people out there that don't even know that you can call me and help you through it. So yeah, maybe that's why.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there were things that we were taught early on.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things is, walk every unit, which we've strayed from.
That's a tough ask.
Well, during all this, this COVID era.
Yeah.
It's been difficult.
Well, I mean, it's difficult before that, but especially now. Yeah. People don't want you in their space.
No. And so like we get due diligence teams, or we get assurances from the property management company that, within the next 6 weeks, we will have walked 90% of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, things still come up, but we can go into those later, because I've had a really fun time while Jason and Julianne were at Philmont and had no cellular internet access.
Yeah.
My world pretty much burned down around.
Yeah. When everything went wrong, right?
If it could, well, I won't say if it could, it did, but it felt that way for sure.
Well, I think I told you that whenever I'm out of town, my wife just stays with her parents.
You did tell me that. That is super smart. But my mother-in-law is actually.
I'm kind of scared by myself, and my parents will take me out to eat and help with the kids. So why not?
Wow. Yeah. No, that's super smart. But like, so one of the reasons why insurance has gone up in my mind is because of everything that happened in, was it February 21?
Yeah.
Like millions upon millions, if not billions of dollars were paid out because Texas isn't made for sub-zero.
Yeah. It's
just not.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. It wasn't a Hurricane Harvey type crazy, it's hard to explain. It was one of those disasters that was kind of inconvenient and crazy, but really didn't do like it. The problem was Texas is so big, and it affected the entire state of Texas, all the way down to Galveston Beach. We had turtles washing up on the beach because they were frozen, right? You don't remember that story?
I do not remember that story.
Yeah, sea turtles got too cold and they stopped moving, so people had to go down on the beach and collect all these turtles. They took them to warehouses, warmed them up, and then after the storm, they put them out and got them back in the ocean. But that those things just don't happen. So it wasn't a Hurricane, Harvey type incident, but the fact it took the whole state. That's why it was such a big deal. So the damage wasn't flood damage; it was broken pipes here or there. That that's not a huge deal. It could be a bigger deal depending on the property. But when you times that of the whole, Texas is the size of the country of Spain, so a whole country has all these broken pipes everywhere. Yeah, it adds up pretty big. And then we saw there weren't even enough plumbers, but especially materials to even go do all this stuff. So a lot of those claims they drug on. I'm still seeing some that are open. So they just drag on, and really put a strain on the whole industry, which was already kind of strained to begin with in multifamily. And we were kind of talking before. There's just not, you're looking at your normal personal lines home coverage. So
I just researched it, and Spain has 47 million people. So now you know. There you go.
Got it. I can't even name them all. You know, the progressive, the farmers, you know, go on and on. You can see all the commercials, right? There's just not that many for multifamily. And so when there's not that many and there's an event like that happens, all those claims are now on these limited amount of carriers, and now they have to get that, you know, recoup them somehow, right? So it's really tough on them. And like you said, some have not just increased premiums, but said we can't do it anymore. We're non-renewing all of our current clients, and we're not taking on any new ones, and we're not writing habitational risks in Texas anymore. And then of course that puts a strain on the other companies that are left, right? Because now they've got to take on these clients. It's just kind of a snowball effect. The neat thing is though, when a big carrier like that leaves, there's all these other little carriers that you wouldn't necessarily think of that kind of pop up and say, well, we're not going to take that whole book on, but we will take all 1990 and newer in Dallas that have a brand new roof, right? All of these have these weird little appetites. So there's all these little ones that have kind of popped up, and it's our job to stay on top of it, to know who they are, what is their appetite, where can we move this stuff to, and it changes all the time. So yes, I can get you a great estimate, you know, before you submit your LOI. I try to get as close as I can, but with a market that seems like it changes every week, sometimes that's tough to do. But in your case, when talking about a claim that big, you know, for me, it was pretty easy because I said, you know what, I just wrote a property that was in the same scenario. I just got done going through this. I know there's 2 places I can go, and I know what the rate is. I know what the deductibles were, and I know the outcome. I can't promise you that that's what it's going to be if y'all go through with this, but that's what just happened. And my client, unfortunately, was saying, JT, if I knew this from the start, I wouldn't have bought this property. And it's like, I know, I'm sorry, but here we are. He's got all this guaranteed money up, so he has to do it. Good news is, you know, next year things are going to be different, and he's already at the property fixing things and improving it, and it's going to get better next year. But I would rather tell you off the bat, this is probably what's going to be, versus telling you the bad news later on when there's nothing you can do about it. So,
and I mean, it can be heartbreaking. That's why you shouldn't fall in love with the property.
Yeah.
Bad angel.
Yeah. What do they say when you're trying to buy a new house? Like, don't move your furniture in your mind, because it may fall through. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the other option was, I mean, they could have come down to where we were offering, because we
That's
had
the biggest thing. We're seeing a
had
lot
to
of that.
reevaluate it.
We're seeing a lot of that right now. If the owners think that they can get away with not telling you about these claims, it's getting harder for them to do that. So yeah, if you know that there's a big claim there, go back to them. Like, let's negotiate, especially if it's open and they, you know, it's a big fire claim that happened 4 months ago. The claim is still open, meaning they're not done with their investigation. They're not done with paying out for the claim. So it's still open. They're still working through these things. And then if it's open, chances are that the fire damage hasn't been fixed either. So if all those are the case, well, then we don't really know where that's going to fall. And so you can understand why carriers don't want to get into this, and they don't want to be brought into this claim that I didn't have anything to do with. You know, if something happens during construction, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So we've seen owners and buyers negotiate, you know what, I will fix the damage, but come down $1 million and let me bring in my contractor to fix this damage. You keep your insurance claim and all that, and we'll take it over. Just come down on the purchase price. So there's a lot of ways that we've seen those negotiations go. But yeah, that's definitely something you want to know ahead of time, right?
No, absolutely. And so I have heard that there's these kind of, I guess, these policies out there that it's like there's an amount on the top, like $1 million, $2 million, that if the claim is less than that, they just handle it. And so, like, if it's a $10 million property, maybe they're only insuring it for like 8 because they're going to cover the top 2. I had never heard of anything like that. But what is that?
I'm not sure. Maybe if I saw the policy, maybe the way you're explaining it is just confusing me. So maybe
the way it's in my mind could be weird.
All right. So what I'm thinking you're saying is the person that is choosing this insurance policy says, you know what, I will take a high deductible, and say $100,000 deductible, and anything under $100,000, I'll just pay out of pocket. And then anything over that, then I'll put in a claim. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, but I swear it was like $1 million. And I was like, why would anybody agree to fix something if it's $1 million?
Yeah. Well, you know, some of these wind hail deductibles, they're expressed in percents. So like a 2% wind hail deductible is very common. Now we're seeing some 3% and up to 5%. So when you get up, especially up to 5%, I mean, yeah, that hail claim, you know, that 5% deductible on your total value of your building could be $1 million, depending on the
so maybe it was just a high deductible kind of thing. And I just wasn't understanding it.
You know, when you get into those high deductibles, you're almost self-insuring. I mean, how much is a new roof cost on your property? You know, it's a good sized property, but you know, it might only be $350,000. And so we're talking about a 3% wind hail. It's close to $350,000 already. So might as well have a 5% wind hail because I'm going to pay for it anyways, right? So, and I always tell, everything's a bit of a gamble. You're gambling that this will not happen to you this year. So I'm going to take a high deductible and risk that. But also you can be a little smarter on it too. And everybody's risk tolerance is different. So this doesn't work for everybody. I have people that let it ride every year, and I have some that go, no, I will pay the extra premium because I don't want anything to happen, right? But if you have a brand new roof on your property, chances are you're probably not going to need a new one the next year, right? That's not a given, but chances are I'm not going to have a claim when a new hailstorm comes through. So then maybe it is worth it to you to have a higher deductible for your wind hail this year than it would be if you had a 10-year-old roof, right? So those are kind of things that you want to think about as well.
So another thing that I think underlies this conversation that's not coming out is the fact that the tenants are ultimately paying for the policy, and as landlords, we still have to remember it's like, well, what's best for the residents, right? And I think that's the question that needs to be going through landlords' heads when they're saying like, so do I do the high deductible, roll the dice, hope that it's not going to happen to me? Or do I get that extra coverage, potentially sleeping better at night? But there you go.
No, we definitely have to figure out how to work it out financially.
Mm-hmm.
As well, and I definitely won't talk to you about it, before binding coverage, because it does make a difference.
Do you have access to like weather patterns for an area? Because like in my mind, if someone didn't live where we live, they wouldn't understand that hail literally can be softball sized here.
Yeah,
like,
well, not only that, but we can count on 3 hailstorms a year at least to come through, maybe more.
We had a random one this past, like, what was it? It would have been just like totally outside. No, was it November?
Yeah.
And it was like little tiny pieces of hail, and they were like fell really fast. And there was like an inch and a half ice on the road, and I'm in the Jeep and it's like sliding over the road. I'm like, what the heck? It's like November.
Yeah. Well, and then sometimes you'll see that in one.
Or it was February, but it was a weird season.
Yeah, and then it'll just go away real quick too. So not every storm is going to have those softball size, but again, you can count on probably 3. My house will get hit by 3 hailstorms. Whether they're big or not.
Quarter size, dime size.
Yeah, right. Whether
it's
they're
not
big or
all
not, you still count on that. And so other parts of the country, it's just not that way. And North Texas, you can just count on that. And it's replacing roofs are very expensive, along with all the other things that can get damaged along with hail. It's not just roofs, but that's the big thing we think of. And say what you want about insurance companies, and they're greedy. Oh my God! Well, you're paying say $100,000 for your property. That's the annual premium, for the year. But then you make it. Maybe it's a wind hail claim for $350,000. Well, they're already behind. Or even worse, it's a fire that's $1.6 million. You only paid them $100,000, and now they're paying you $1.6 million. So you can see how quickly they can get behind, especially if they've got this happening to multiple properties. So it's something that there's other carriers that'll come in and like I said, have certain appetites and kind of pick up the pieces. This will right itself as long as we don't have another February storm, which I hope that doesn't ever happen. Hey, were you without?
So a lot of this goes down to something I hear you say very often, Angel, which is you don't know what you don't know. and so I think that's the most important thing as far as how somebody can prepare to get into this business. I think you need a wide range of education, and it's a lot more than just, find it, fix it, flip it, fund it, that sort of thing. That was in the wrong order, obviously, but whatever. But the thing I wanted to mention that for is because we have what I think is the best way to get on your feet really, really quickly for a very small price. And that is the source of all of this different content. And it also gets you access to the virtual summit that's coming up in 2 weeks. So let's talk for a second about this subscription where people can really get on their feet.
Absolutely. So for about $17 a month, you can get the VIP subscription. And what that will do is it will give you access to all of the summit material that we've ever done. And you'll have access to the live material that we'll be doing on March 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So it's a really great way to get into the live side and to get all of the recordings. So by the end of this summit, there will be well over 400 hours of content that you'll get to peruse at your leisure at whatever speed you want to look at it at. And you can take your notes, you can rewind it, you can hear it again, whatever you need so that you can learn the material.
Exactly. And all you have to do is visit theacademypresents.com/REI Rocks review. Right now, I actually think /VIP is the better spot because that's the where you'll end up accessing everything. And if you have your phone handy and you're watching on a desktop, you can just scan that QR code and it'll send you right there magically, which is a very convenient thing. I like it. So let's take that down. We are reviewing JT Lynch's presentation on insurance and basically helping people get their head around why this is such an important piece of the puzzle, what considerations you have to have if you're going to be taking over a commercial property, and basically, some of the unspoken details as far as like if you're in a coaching program or something like that. You know, they might. I remember the mentorship that I took. They did emphasize that you should have very like you don't go for the bottom level of insurance. You want, you know, really, really good coverage because it'll really pay off if you're looking to do this long term. But do not adjust your television set. I like saying that because it dates me. But we are watching at 1.5 times speed. If you're watching a replay of this review, then make sure you pay attention to the speed controls, because if you find it's a little bit too fast, you can slow it down. If you find it's not fast enough, you could even turn it to 2 times playback speed. Let's continue with JT Lynch.
Power at all?
So ours is a little bit different because we have a special needs son. So the electric company works to turn our grid on first. So like I think the first day we were out for 17 hours, and the next day we were out for like 15 and maybe 8 the following, and then we were back on.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the hardest part was it was Josephine's birthday in there.
Oh,
And
no.
so when the power came on, we're like breakfast pancakes. We're making breakfast pancakes.
Yeah.
And then when it came on again, we threw together a birthday cake, and she was like, "This is the best birthday ever." And we're like,
Memorable for sure. Just never forget it.
she got to play in the snow, and then they went down to
Yeah.
one of the hills, and like everybody in town had like whatever they could find, whether it was blow up
Right.
mattresses
Right.
or whatever, to slide down this hill. So she
Yeah.
thought it was great.
Well,
But I
kids are
know-
so funny too, because
Yeah.
and I know a lot of families, they huddle together in the living room together, and I'm sure kids love that. For us, my house is close enough to a fire station and a water tower that I never lost power.
Yeah.
So people were coming to my house to cook and just warm up, and so yeah,
We
got
had
lucky.
people across the street from us that were out for 5 days.
Wow, that's rough.
Yeah, but like I said, we're one of the grids that gets turned on first. But like even on my street, if you had a 2-story house, you had to move while they redid the house. Because
Wow.
every
So
single
they-
2-story house in our area, the upper story pops first.
So I guess the electric company just knew the demand on the grid that individual houses took and would only take.
Well,
Uh,
so you can turn it in.
Uh-huh.
So we use TXU. We won't ever use anybody that's not a big person that we can turn stuff into.
Uh-huh.
And we told TXU, and then I guess they handed it off to the local grid. But you can let your electric company know if you're in a situation where you have to have electricity.
Yeah.
And they'll work to make sure that you get
Yeah, you've got a
on.
special needs child, or something like that's good to know.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I also heard a stat the other day that there were actually more deaths from that winter freeze than in Hurricane Harvey. Isn't that nuts?
well, I mean, we ran out of firewood,
Right.
and you couldn't get it. And looking
Yeah.
for us, we ordered a lot of Amazon. So we had
A lot of
a
boxes,
plethora of Amazon boxes,
Okay.
and Jason and the
Those are
girls
pretty
rolled them up super tight, and then like screwed big long screws into them so they would stay tight and not burn as fast. And so we
That's
used Amazon logs.
God, he must be an eagle.
Yeah, egg cartons are good for that too. And I know you guys go through a lot of eggs, but that's another good little tip there, especially as kindling. The egg cartons, they light up really, really well.
Yeah, but not the styrofoam ones
Definitely not the styrofoam
or the
one.
plastic ones.
Yeah. So there you go.
This guy.
He is an Eagle Scout. But yeah, no, it was
Yeah, well, and again, it was just a few freak deaths here or there. Like you heard the family that got in their car in the garage, started it just to warm up, but of course they ran their car in the garage, right? So, but little stories like that all over the whole state is just equals a greater amount of people that got affected than just in Houston. You know what I mean?
no,
So-
and then like we were cooking in the fireplace, and we got out the
Yeah.
little camp stoves and everything else. I'm like, Jason, is this safe? He's like, oh, we're fine. But then I
So
started
no wonder
thinking
your
about-
kids had fun. Yeah, they were camping.
yeah, we were camping inside. But it was like, I think about the stories that I've heard of people like using, I guess, coal, or not coal, but charcoal stuff in their fireplaces to cook, and it makes you sick and
Yeah.
all of that. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen like that. And then of course insurance pays out for that too. And then I was thinking, like, so a friend of mine, they have he's got like a local store, and all of the fire sprinklers,
Ah.
all of those bust.
Yeah.
So do the same insurance companies that insure like multifamily and other habitations, do they also do the insurance for those kinds of commercial buildings as well?
Yeah, some of them do. Yeah.
So they were double and triple hit.
So yeah, so again, we all want to think of these insurance companies. They're so greedy and taking all the, but I mean, think of how much money worth of claims that they've had to pay out just through that, and they've got to recoup that somehow. And so how do they do it? Fortunately, they have to increase premiums to get that pool of money back to be able to pay out claims again. So that's where it is. Hopefully, there's no more huge natural disasters like that when we kind of come back to normal. I also think that owners are getting smarter. I think we talked before about those stovetop fire stops that stick to the vent hoods in the apartment complexes. Did we talk about that before?
I think we did.
So yeah, it's just this, it almost looks like a hockey puck,
Mhm.
and inside it, or a tuna can, and inside the can is fire retardant, and you put it. It's a magnet, and you magnet up to the vent hood, and if there's a grease fire or something like that, and a flame touches that, then it'll come and extinguish it. And it's something crazy, like 85-86% of these claims on these properties are small kitchen fires, and it's because of certain things like that. You can get these on Amazon for it's like $5 a thing.
Wow.
So why wouldn't you do it, right? And so I think a lot of owners are getting wiser to that as deductibles go up, as these claims are just killing them. Let's do whatever we can so that there's not a claim, right? Let's make our property safer. Let's think ahead, like you. Let's stay awake at night and think of things we can do to make the property safer. And in the end, that's just going to benefit everybody. Everybody wants their property to be safer, right? yeah, I think owners are getting wiser to try to do certain things to protect their property because they don't want to have to pay these high deductibles, and they don't want their insurance to increase because they had a claim. So they're doing everything they can to think ahead of what could I do to get ahead of this, just like you do for your property, right? The days of slumlording and just letting it ride, there's no way you can afford that, right? You got to fix that railing that's loose. You got to make sure that your tenants are taken care of. Even small things like trips and falls in the parking lot. They could happen because you've got a parking lot that needs to fix the potholes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, get these things done. Yes, it's a pain in the butt. Yes, it costs money now. It could cost you a fortune later on. Just go ahead and get it fixed. And also good news is the carrier will come out and do an inspection for you, right? And they'll tell you, hey, these are the 10 items that you want to look for. Is it a pain in the butt to tell your tenants not to have a grill on their balcony? Yes, because every tenant wants a grill on their balcony. Do all apartment complexes have tenants that have grills? Yes, they do. You got to try to tell them to get them out of there. Maybe make grilling stations out on your property that are nicer than the little grills that they could have, right? Make it enticing for them to want to use that versus having a grill on their patio, and then you don't have to worry about that. So any trick that you can have, I recommend looking into it because yeah, it's going to cost you more in the long run, usually if you have these claims.
So if insurance policies are really, they're modeled to be like paid out over a longer time horizon, how are they going to mitigate that since so many people now are, I say now, it may slow down some in this environment, but in the past 5 years, people were turning them in 18 months. They were turning them in 3 years. How does an insurance company well, number one, how do they get ahead of that? And then number two, how are they going to mitigate that now that it's been occurring for so long?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Yeah, you think about if you had you owned a convenience store, right? Whoever writes the insurance for that, they've probably been with the same person for 10 years. You know what I mean? They just don't change. It's 80% for those types of businesses, 80% of people that they're going to renew every year just to convenience. They're already with the best policy. They don't have crazy claims, so they can stay there, things like that. And it's just easier to stay where you are. But like you said, in this industry, properties are changing hands so much, and they have been here recently for a while. That yeah, these carriers, if there was a claim, they could normally go, well, let's keep them on here, and the years going forward that they're paying premium, we'll recoup some of that we paid out. But if they leave the next year, they can't get that. It's hard for them to forecast when can we get these losses back to us. So yeah, to your point, if we're not exchanging properties every year or every 3 years or whatever, then maybe it can kind of right itself. So that'll be interesting to see, because yeah, it would be tough to recoup a $1.6 million loss when you're not even keeping that property there next year.
So it means people who buy and hold will be really popular with their insurance providers.
So long as they're not making a bunch of claims.
Yeah. Well, I suppose. Yeah, you're going to have a bad time regardless if you're making a bunch of claims. There's no two ways about that. Far out.
Now, so this happens, somebody sold in 28 months instead of, 3 to 5 years or whatever, and they had a $1.6 million claim. When the next people who purchase that property get insurance, are they going to pay a higher premium because of that $1.6 million claim?
Absolutely. It's not fair that something someone else did would affect you, but they don't look at it as you, it's the property. This is the property. The worst is maybe there was some sort of crime at a property, but you're coming in and I'm going to install new lighting, security cameras. I'm going to have a courtesy patrol come by at night. I'm going to have a new gate, all these things to make it safer. Plus that old property manager was terrible. I know the owners, they didn't even care. And I'm going to do all this stuff. Still, that property, it's known for crime. So a similar property in the same area that didn't happen is less risky, right? So the good news is that doesn't happen forever. You go in there, you prove yourself, you did all this stuff, and there's no incidents. Most carriers only look back 3 years, so you're 3 years claims free, and then you've helped yourself. So no matter what claim is on there, just know it doesn't have to happen forever. These certain premiums, but it is what it is right now. But use that as a negotiating tactic, but definitely underwrite to it, so you stay ahead of the game and not get surprised.
Wow. So
my friend is waking up. Hold on just a second.
He's got a new baby.
That's funny. And he was talking about underwriting just in time for Jason. Oh, here we go.
It's her first conference appearance.
Again, I tried to time it so that I fed her and then she'd be asleep, but of course she's not.
Yeah, she is not asleep at all.
We're matching shirts though today, matching clothes. So, yeah, as you can see, she's wide awake.
That's awesome though. So I was thinking, is insurance going up everywhere, or is it really focused in Texas that was hit hard? Or
I think it depends on the asset, depends on, are we talking multifamily or single family? But yeah, for the most part, you can see increases across the country for a lot of different things. But definitely in states where you see those big catastrophic events. So when you're seeing hurricanes or big storms that come through, like that winter storm we had. So Texas, Florida, Louisiana, man, good luck getting a policy, in New Orleans. It's just, it is so hard. I'll get people to call me and for help in New Orleans or in Louisiana, along the coast. Hey, this insurance is ridiculous. And I'll ask them, well, what carrier you're with? Oh, I'm with this. It's like, it's a good one. Really? It's like, yeah, there's not much you can do, for some of these circumstances, but that is what it is. You probably got a great deal on it also, and so just because you know that this area is prone to certain storms or the premiums are going to be higher, does it still underwrite well? Does it still produce well? Then okay, you just know that the insurance is going to be this, and you budget for that. I live next to a tollway. I live next to 121, right? I just know that I'm going to use the toll almost every day. I'm not going to go on the side streets and use the lights. That's crazy. But I just work that into my budget and know that I've got a toll tag and know that I pay tolls, and it is what it is. Now we don't even notice it because we work that into our budget. So
well, it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And you have to have insurance. You can't not have insurance.
Necessary evil. The necessary evil. One thing that we're seeing right now is with interest rates going up, with supply and demand on materials, that a property that we would insure replacement costs for maybe $100 a square foot. Now lenders are going, no, we need it to be higher than that. We need it to be $120 a square foot, right? Okay. And so that's going to change the insurance premiums right there, just because we're insuring it at a higher amount. So we've seen that this year too. So just be ready for that. Unfortunately, it's hard to know which lender is going to do what, and they don't tell you until usually when the appraisal comes in. So we'll try to get it as close as we can, but ultimately we're at the mercy of what the lender asks. The good news is
well, one thing that people can do to be proactive in finding out what's going on with insurance quotes and stuff like that before it actually becomes an issue, because like you got to have that figured out before you get your signed LOI, before you get the property under contract. So I think the best thing for people to do is to join us on Marvelous Mondays. I'm sure, Angel, you'll agree with me once you unmute, but why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about how marvelous Mondays truly is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 25 to 40 people, and we get together every Monday at noon Eastern, whether we're traveling, whether it's a holiday, regardless of what's going on, we're going to be there. And we become friends, we become family, and we help each other out with our questions about properties, our questions about insurance, and we try and point each other in the right direction and make the right connections. So it's a really great place to be.
And one thing, I always focus on is conflict of interest. I'm always looking out for, like the unspoken relationships that are going on where you might not get the straight deal, the straight story. And since we're, all nationwide, we get people from all over the country joining us on Marvelous Mondays. Is completely free. All you have to do is hit the link or scan the QR code to register and join us. You just get to meet other syndicators, and they'll tell you what's going on with them, because it's no skin off of their back. And I think a lot of people, everybody in this industry, at least the ones that we keep in our circle, they're looking long term. They're not looking to make a quick buck and then disappear to the Philippines or something like that. They're going to be there year in, year out. And so they're going to give you a straight story on what's going on. And it's just so refreshing to be in that kind of environment, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I don't think so.
All right, cool. Then let's continue.
For all my clients, I fight for them. I'll go, there's no way that you're asking for this amount of loss of rents. There's no way they can even collect this amount. There's only so many units. There's only so much you can increase the rents to. Market rent is this in the area. We know that. So why are you asking for this amount of loss of rents? It's not feasible, right? So I'll fight for you. I'll also do replacement cost estimators on your behalf, which shows, no, this estimator tool that we have shows that it's $110 a square foot in this area. So your $144 that you're looking for, it's not reasonable. And a lot of times they do meet us at least in the middle, which is good.
Yeah. So then if a property is going to use one of those, like, it's like a renter insurance, but it's more for the owner, like Rhino or Assurant, does that change how the big insurance policy is written?
Not necessarily. They won't necessarily give you a discount for doing it. But what it does is, for you in the long run, if there is a claim that's tenant related that they did this, well, then now you can fall back on their renter's policy to help cover it, depending on what the claim is and how big it is and all that. But they do damage to their own units. They've got $500,000 worth of coverage. Then yeah, take it out on their policy if you can. And we offer.
Okay, I understood that was for if the tenant can't pay rent on time for whatever reason, was what Rhino was for. Have I got that incorrect, or what's that all about?
It can actually be used for damages to the unit as well if it was tenant inflicted.
Okay. So it's an insurance policy that they hold, and so do you have like an order of magnitude as far as the cost? Like, is it like 10% of rent, 5% of rent, like even a ballpark, or
it's like $15, $20 a month?
Okay. Okay,
And,
so
and
it's
so there's two types of renter's insurance, right? So there's the renter's insurance that you get that covers your property if something happens, it pays you. And then the other one is it's a renter's insurance that if something happens to the property, and I guess it doesn't even necessarily have to be even tenant inflicted. If something happens to your unit, then that insurance pays the owner. So
Gotcha.
just two different kinds.
Gotcha. Good stuff. See, aren't we learning all sorts of new stuff? This is great. This REI Rocks review that starts every Friday at 11 a.m. Let's continue with JT Lynch's presentation.
Some programs that are similar, you're in control of it. So they can't just show you, yeah, I've got an insurance policy, here it is, and then cancel it the next day. No, you're in control of that policy. You offer it, and a lot of owners, they just tack that onto the rent, and so they almost don't notice that they have that, as you know, and it costs the owner, I think, $8 a unit, something like that. So it's pretty cheap. But yeah, you want to make sure that your tenants have a policy in place, and don't worry about asking a renter to have one, because most places make you do it anyways. So by asking them to have their renter's insurance policy, you're not going to be different than the place across the street, because it's pretty normal nowadays to ask for that.
Awesome.
And for a tenant, they're so cheap. So, like, yes, why wouldn't you want this policy that, it's $30 for the year or whatever, and it protects all your stuff, right? You got that awesome TV. Don't you want that protected? So yeah.
No, that's awesome. I want to thank you for being here and
Absolutely
for showing your gorgeous little baby there.
Yeah, this is Remy, and she is 7 weeks old.
So, just y'all being here and then just talking about insurance, and it's a necessary thing. You have to have it, whether you consider it to be evil or not. I mean, that's on you, but it's something you have to have. And just, I'm thank you for sharing. It's
absolutely, and happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. Anytime, you let me know what you need, and I'm here for you.
Awesome.
But for all your listeners, insurance it's a crazy thing. So call me, email me. All my information's all around. So I'm happy to talk with you about whatever property you're looking at, or your current property, or if you just have a question in general, happy to discuss it with you. Because it is confusing. So happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, there's way more to come. So stick around, or go ahead and upgrade and come join us on the live side. So until next time.
All right, so we can remove that and take that and then stop the screen so that it stops. Holy moly, cat. Swell. So that was really, really awesome. We were really talking about how that's part of underwriting. So before we get to our doggy bag. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Anyway, that was
Body bag.
yeah, that's we won't have any body bags, but if you're wondering if there's more room in your underwriting, then you should definitely talk to Jason. I got this up here first. So yeah, before the doggy bag, let's talk about what Jason offers different syndicators and investors and whatnot for underwriting. So go ahead, Angel.
All right. So what you can get is basically it's kind of an array. You can have him look at your numbers in your model. You can have him look at, your numbers in his model. He could create you a custom spreadsheet. He can be your underwriter. There's lots of things that he can do for you as an underwriter. And there's a lot of underwriting services and review that he can do as well. So you just need to book a call with him. And what that call will entail is just some initial information. And then when you choose to go forward, that will apply to the cost of your services going forward.
Exactly. And you need to do the math. That's what underwriting is all about. You need to do the math before you take on a property, because there's no guarantee that the seller is actually telling the truth. They might be overstating. Like I've seen it before, where the promotional materials that are sent out by the broker, it's based off of 18 months instead of 12. And so if you're trying to annualize returns based off a year and a half, it's like, yeah, of course they're going to look better. But it's kind of a scary prospect. But we're talking about JT. We're talking about insurance. So what are the takeaways from this? What really jumped out to you, Angel?
I guess really number one is we've developed a pretty good relationship with JT. Jason got to meet him face to face at BEC. So that's been pretty cool. But by having that kind of a really solid relationship with your insurance broker, they're going to really want to be there for all of your properties. And so they are going to do those indications, because we really did have a deal that was no longer viable after getting true insurance quotes. So you really want to make sure that you have an agent or a broker that will look at the property and give you some kind of an indication of what the insurance cost will be, so that you don't get blindsided. Wouldn't you agree, Jason?
That's number one. And someone like JT, he can do like RV parks, he can do mobile home communities, multifamily, so anything. I recommend him.
Excellent, excellent. And so I was having a conversation with another person in the insurance industry recently, and it sounds like the other thing you got to look out for when you're picking your rep is some people are happy to sell you whatever kind of insurance you want, even if it's fully outside their area of expertise. And I think that's a really big reason to shop around, because if they don't really know what's being insured intimately, then their suggestions are not going to be very good. And at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to be paying the price for lacking the coverage. But I really like JT's presentation. He's a great guy, and I like him even more because he sponsors the summit. And that's just another reminder here that this space could be yours on REI Rocks Reviews, the podcast for REI Rocks, and also the summits. So don't forget to reach out if you need some more eyeballs from syndicators, commercial real estate investors, buyers, sellers, and all that kind of stuff. But that's what I take from all of this. I love those different suggestions JT had, but that's all I got for today. And I'm happy that we are able to make this a fast one, because you guys have so many, hands to kiss, babies to shake, all that kind of stuff at BEC. No, yeah, it's not kissing hands and shaking babies. Okay, well, whatever. But this has been great. We're here every Friday. Any other parting words before we give people the rest of their Friday back?
Make sure you're at the summit.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't call it best ever for no reason. So but there you go.
Our summit.
Oh, our summit. Our summit is virtual, and you could do it from a chair, just like this one on the internet. You know, you don't even have to brush your teeth. I always do. I've got the weirdest habit. It doesn't matter what podcast it is. You know, I still like contribute to my oral hygiene, even though nobody can smell my breath. Trust me, I smell fantastic. Anyway, everybody really needed to know that. All right, awesome. So thanks, as always, Angel. Thanks, Jason. This is great. Thank you especially for joining us today. I can't say enough about how much of a difference it makes to us. We really are doing this for you. So make sure you join us. I hope to see you at a Marvelous Monday or at our next REI Rocks review.
Yay.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye, guys.